20-year-old investor, as a 20-year-old investor that's about to have a 7-figure portfolio while still being a Dean's List college student, let me explain why I believe Section 8 investing is the absolute best model of getting into real estate if you are a complete beginner, if you are young, and you are a business owner. Let me start out with my prior situation, right? I was a business owner, or I am still a business owner, right? I was starting my videography journey, but the problem was until I was so young, I couldn't go and buy somewhere here in California, right? Although I'm buying this month, right? I'm closing on a $740,000 unit, right? The problem was that I didn't have the proper proof of income. I didn't have the traditional proof of income, and I was also very young. Like I was 19, making like 10K, 15K a month. So it's like, who is gonna trust a 19-year-old that's making 10 to 15K a month if they don't have at least 2 years? Sometimes they want a bunch of stuff just for you to buy, right? Even if I had all the money, like all in, I wouldn't be able to do it. So that was the first thing. Was really like, okay, well, I'm a young business owner. And I'm thinking like the underwriters, right? The people that make the decisions to loan out to you. Why would they want to lend out to that, right? Unless I had a co-signer, which I didn't want to do. So I was like, all right, like what are my options here? So then I started realizing you could buy out of state. But the problem I didn't know about out of state was I thought that the loan types were still the same. That you had to go and provide the documentation, all of the above. And that was because I didn't know about non-QM financing, right? And the other thing I was looking into, this is all me being 19, 20 years old, right? Because I always try to think about things in a very analytical sense. I don't want to think about things emotionally ever, because then you make a rational decision that's going to bite you in the ass. I realized, okay, well, if I buy in California, my payment's going to be like 5-6 grand. I don't have 5-6 grand that I could go and say, if I can't find a tenant, I'll front this for 3 months. I can't do that. So I was like, fuck, what I need is cash flow. And the reason why I wanted cash flow is so I could take more risk and then have someone else be paying my risk if anything goes wrong. So I was like, all right, well, what else can I do? So then I started looking into different modes of investing, looking at Airbnb. Did not really want to do that. The problem that I really want to do that is because of its volatility, right? You could go and have a really good month 1 month, or a really good period of like say a quarter, right, in terms of the summer, and then during the beginning of the year it's just trash. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do the arbitrage method. I didn't want to be in a position where it's volatile. I had to front that landlord's rent. Did not want to do that. And alongside me being in a position where the California didn't make sense right off the rip, with me not having proper documentation, needing more money down, alongside that is showing up on my credit report as debt. The other thing was the laws. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to front a $6,000 a month mortgage for 12 months if a tenant gets in there and they won't leave, right? Or and they didn't want to pay. So I was like, okay, I can't take this risk yet. So I was like, all right, let me go look at different investing methods. And after I did that, I learned about Section 8 investing through one of my boys, Gio. Gio told me about this guy named Kareem. I bought his program and I took action upon it. In regards to that, the reason why I still believe it's the best investing model is because I didn't have the proper documentation, I didn't have a ton of money, and I could get really creative with the financing type. And alongside that, it allows me to build my portfolio, it lets me to get the tax benefits, and alongside that doesn't show up on my credit report as debt. And the benefit of not showing your credit report as debt is that the debt to income is not going to get affected. The amount of money you make, the amount of money you spend does not get affected. So you can go and buy a property in California the same way that me and my boy Alex are. Alex doesn't have any credit report or debt on his credit report from a home because the property is underneath the LLC's debt. And this is the only investing strategy that has guaranteed returns. Guaranteed returns. There is no other investment on the planet that you could say, oh, it's guaranteed, right? Because the United States government that prints money every single fucking day is paying the rent. It's not the landlord, right? And well, it's not the tenant. Most of the time, it's not the tenant, right? The tenant sometimes pays a portion, and the landlord pays a portion. I mean, the government pays a portion. But even if the tenant does not pay a portion, you could still kick them out, right? So the laws are in your favor. Alongside that, you're in a position where the cash flow is guaranteed. It doesn't need a ton of documentation. When I first bought and they were asking for my paperwork, right? All they needed was 2 to 3 months worth of bank statements, and they wanted to run our credit. That was it. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what else do you guys need, right? And the issue with that whole idea was that I thought, oh, well, the properties are not, I can't see them. What am I gonna do? I can't see them. And that is just the most outdated way of thinking. That is just super outdated. The problem with you having that mindset is because, one, you're buying this property not to live in it. Like, you're not gonna live. Why do you need to see this property? You're not living in it. The second thing is it's an investment. There's no person on the planet that I have ever met that says, hey, look, I look at my 401k every day, right? You want to see your property every day? Why? Why? You're supposed to focus on the highest leverage activities, which is going and making more money so you can buy more properties and buy your time back. So the third reason was that when you don't have an emotional investment, you don't go and try to do things yourself. So you're not doing low leverage activities. I know most of the people watching this video do not want to go and fix toilets at fucking 3 a.m. Do not. So when I bought my first property, I went into it with a mindset that like, oh, I'm gonna put in 15 grand, and that was because of the BS that I was fed. And I'm gonna be the one to tell you that that is not the truth. You could go and get in with 15 grand, but it's not going to make sense most of the time because of the repairs you need to put into it, which not only requires financial investment, but time and energy, which most of you people do not have. You're probably focused on your business, you're working 9 to 5, and you can't be sitting there trying to coordinate with contractors, all the above. You want to buy something that's turnkey and it's gonna make money right off the whip. That's my investment strategy. I said, I don't want to do any sort of work. I don't care about buy someone's flip. I just want a cash flow, and that is it. I'm not trying to do work. And that leads me into another reason why I believe it's the best investment is because when you have the proper team in place that's out of state, you don't need to physically be there, right? So many people, like the property that we're buying in California, this is the most amount of legwork I've ever had to do in property management is in California, because we're in a position where when we're buying this fourplex, and we need someone to go and help us place that new tenant. They want to like meet us and they want to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And it's like, then they're saying like, oh, we need to meet the owners. All this bullshit. And when you're doing out of state, you find in my team, they understand that there's out of state investors that capitalize on the market, and they're doing it. Another reason, so besides it being guaranteed returns, alongside that having a low barrier to entry financially, you really only need like 27 to around 40 grand to be all in, comfortable, conservative with all the things I talk about in terms of the 3 pillars: time, money, energy. Right? Any sort of miscellaneous expenses. You don't want to just be caught up on down payment, closing costs. Like I always say, that is when a realtor and a lender's work ends, right? When the deal closes, that's when yours begins. So you have to be ready for that, and don't quit your job, do any of that. Like I said, they don't care about how much money you make, it's just about having the liquidity to prove it. I started with only $10,000. I got business credit, I did that. That's a whole different thing. You want any questions about that, just DM me. But another reason, when you're investing into these East Coast properties that don't have markets like California, which is just like, the wealth gap is like you're super rich or you're not at all. You're in a position where you have people that are very reliant on government, right? And these people are Section 8. It's been around since 1938. The government has tried to get rid of it, and they have not had any luck. They have done it for decades, multiple administrations. Trump has been trying to get rid of it since 2017. No luck doing it because it's a central program. If you really think about it in retrospect, 10 million people would be homeless overnight. Millions of landlords would potentially foreclose on their homes because they're overstretched. And why would you want to, it just doesn't make any sense to get rid of it. And that's why they have it. Even the Republican people in Congress, right, the Senate and the House of Representatives, I voted against getting rid of it. Republicans, which are Trump's people, saying no, I don't want to get rid of it. And alongside that, with me investing into these other places, as opposed to California right off the rip, is like I said, I built my cash flow so I can take more risk. And the other thing that I want to mention, which is a little bit more different, is that obviously it's not seasonal, it's guaranteed, no barrier to entry. In terms of socioeconomic, right, basically just meaning like the area in terms of the society, economics, is that a lot of these places, like I invest in, say, like Cleveland, Ohio, for example. If you buy in San Jose, California, very big on tech, that's all it is, it's just tech, Silicon Valley. If tech went to shit, somehow just went to shit, and no one was ever able to bail them out, you may be in a position where the person that's renting out your apartment, 25, 26-year-old trying to make a name for herself in the big tech, may not be able to pay your rent. And guess what? The bank don't give a fuck. The bank does not give a fuck. So would you rather front a $4,000 to $6,000 mortgage payment trying to get started into breaking in real estate, and even in California make lower returns, right? You could put in $100 grand into a $500,000 property and you may net $500 a month. Maybe. Because of the rates right now, barrier to entry. It's like that 100 grand in Section 8 could have made you at least like fucking 4 to 5 grand a month net, if you did it correctly. But go back to what I was saying. It's not codependent. The areas that I invest in, they're not codependent on anything. And if they are codependent on anything, it's something that will not go away. And what do I mean by this? I invest primarily in Cleveland, Ohio. There's multiple reasons why. One of the reasons is that Cleveland, Ohio is in a place where it is not codependent on any sort of industry, right? It's very big on medical, right? There's a lot of people that are employed because of the medical field right there. I mean, the medical hospitals and clinics right there, because it's big on medical. Medical, during that pandemic, were the only people that were getting paid still. Only people. If Section 8 went away and they removed it, at least my people are still working. I could convert them to a regular tenant and they're still getting income coming in so they could pay the rent. Because all I really care about is getting the rent paid. That's all I care about. The first of the month, that's just like my holiday. Every single month, right? But when it's not codependent on it, I think, okay, I know that, yeah, the government will probably bail out these tenants if we go into another recession or we go into another pandemic. But if they didn't, these essential workers will still get work and they still will be chilling, right? But it's not codependent on the medical field right there. So that is why I still believe this is the best investment strategy. If I want to recap it, like I said, low barrier to entry, does not also require a lot of paperwork to do so, right? Like obviously you still need to have proof you're not doing scandalous shit. You're just doing DSCR loans that don't show up on your credit report, go into the debt of the LLC, and alongside that, don't need traditional proof of income. Better returns based off the money you're making in. And then alongside that, you're in a position where these communities are ever growing because they're more dependent on, obviously government assistance. And that's, the government prints $540 million a fucking day. So as long as they print money, you get paid. And you can just throw it on the back of your mind. You have the right time and you're chilling. So that's why I'm doing that. I still believe that you should invest in both, right? Get California or even Arizona or Nevada, somewhere where you get appreciation so you can buy more cash flow and you could just rinse and repeat, leverage, both benefits of, cash flow covering the risk and appreciation buying more cash flow. So if you have any questions about this, let's go ahead and leave a comment down below. Alongside that, if you want to learn about how we could potentially help you get your first rental within 90 days or we give you a full refund, just go to the first link in the description. It's going to be a booking link. Just go check it out. This is not for people that do not have at least $30,000 to $40,000 saved up, or at least in a position where they have like 15 grand, but they have good credit so they can use business credit and they're willing to do that. So please do not book if that is not you. I appreciate you watching. And if you have any more questions or any video topics you want me to cover, just leave them down below.